We just keep churning these things out.
We really do. How many days ago was it? 3?
I feel like that one just ended. I feel like I've just finished editing it for the 3rd time because my computer kept crashing.
Oh, fun. Top class equipment we have here at Wrong Side of the Pond.
Yeah, well.
So episode 6, we actually have a lot to talk about despite the short turnaround time in between episodes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got a full weekend of the EPL's back in session, obviously. Well, all of Europe is back in session. Everybody's back.
Yeah.
EPL games, a certain Welsh guy made an appearance somewhere in Spain.
Yeah, somewhere.
I guess we can talk about that.
Yeah, we could.
And then our good old friend MLS expansion rumors.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into some of the results. There's all sorts of good stuff to talk about.
A lot going on.
Yeah. So where should we start this thing off?
All right, let's get into the EPL. Well, I guess this weekend's not officially over because Liverpool still plays tomorrow.
They do. So we're recording this, on Sunday night?
That's, I believe, what it currently is.
Yeah, it's been a busy weekend, so I'm feeling a little hard-pressed to remember what day it is right now. So it is Sunday, so we haven't quite seen what Liverpool will pull out. Here's hoping they crap the bed.
We want to, first of all, apologize. If you do hear classic rock in the background, the bar across the street is going hard tonight.
It is. They have a stage, a small crowd of the locals have gathered and are cheering on the people performing on the stage. So, and there's probably a lot of like Bud Light and Coors Light and Miller High Life.
Yeah, a lot of light beer consumption.
Yeah, it's a great spot though. So, maybe we'll wander over there after tonight's pod.
So bear with us if you do hear that in the background. Also, if I belch, I did just make myself some Thai food that's battling me currently. I guess that's more your problem.
Yeah. Well, can we open up the store?
No.
It's going to let in more of the bar across the street. There's really no winning there.
Yeah, I can't open this window either. All right, let's just get into it.
Okay.
EPL, Week 4. What do you want to start with? Should I rip the Band-Aid off here?
Yeah, let's get it over with.
Everton 1, Chelsea 0.
Where to start?
I was watching this. First of all, I had stuff going on during Saturday afternoon.
Right.
So I had this thing DVR'd. I thought all the right people, hey.
Don't say anything.
Radio silence.
Yeah.
I DVR'd this.
Yeah. You have to actually publicly declare it, like on Twitter and Facebook.
I forgot about my older brother, a newfound Everton faithful.
Oh, well, just in time to rub your face in it.
So he just lobbed this text, Everton! I'm sitting there like, God.
I don't even know what that means.
Now I don't even know if I want to watch it.
Yeah.
So I pull it up on my phone. I'm like, oh, they did lose.
Yeah.
They didn't even score.
It was a pretty turgid performance. Turgid performance.
Well, you know what? I want to say, and maybe this is glass half full Chelsea fan over here. It wasn't. They did have 22 shots.
Yeah.
6 on goal. Eto'o looked great. I thought he was moving around. A lot of, you got to remember where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's true. So coming from someone who looks perpetually like they're about to jump off a cliff, Fernando Torres.
Yeah, we got Suicide Watch Torres.
Right.
We got Ba, who doesn't understand how onside works.
Yeah.
So he's moving around just
in offside positions.
Offside. And then Lukaku is on Everton now, but had to sit out.
Yeah.
So all that being said, seeing him run around. Because I did eventually turn this game on.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I'll watch it. I want to see it. I just want to see how bad was it. I think maybe knowing going into it that they lost
allowed you to see the good in the match.
No, I tell you what happened. There's a radio host I listened to who made this comparison the other day about Johnny Manziel.
Right.
And how every time a story or something bad happens about Johnny Manziel, he just starts looking shorter and fatter. And knowing that Chelsea had lost this match and put up 0 offense.
Who was looking shorter and fatter for you?
Man, Jose just looked like somebody's fat dad. Just some bloated dad on the sideline.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just had something was wrong with like my picture ratio or what, but he just looked bad. Also, apparently, I don't know if this was a team bonding experience, but it looked like Jose and a lot of the players went and got their hair cut together, and I think they need to find a new barber.
Yeah, well, none of them looked that sharp.
Shirley needs to get a new barber. His hair looked a little crooked in the back.
Well, I think that's the style these days. You know, it's funny you bring up hair like that. Benzema, during the Real Madrid match, had this really odd, parting's really in right now, doing the full part all the way across the heads. Real popular. Ronaldo, Bale, a lot of other guys have it. Benzema had his head shaved on one side and a small part that ran across the top of his head from the crown over. So it was a half-head part.
It was like a Rubik's Cube head.
Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird. So anyway, back to your match. We'll get on to Spain.
Back to the suck. Hey, I would like to point out that Jose did dabble late in the game with a 2-striker front.
Yeah, he
brought
did.
in Torres.
He did. It didn't work.
It did not work.
No.
But it was cool to see.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead. By the way, Stephen Naismith with the lone goal.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and say the new Chelsea alternate black jerseys may not be worn again for a while. First showing, not so great.
Adidas will probably have something to say about that.
I'm going to say Jose is going to probably delay their next appearance.
Yeah, make sure it's someone a little bit less caliber or less of quality.
That may become the official jersey of the Capital One Cup.
Yeah, that would be a good place for it.
So Everton finally shows up, gets a win.
Yeah, I thought they looked pretty good in the entire match as well.
And you got to think that their only really offensive addition for the most part didn't even really get to take the field yet from the transfer deadline.
Not to mention that they didn't have Fellaini for the first time.
Yeah, didn't have that big man in the middle there.
Right, so, I thought they were going to be kind of hurting, especially against that Chelsea midfield. Juan Mata finally, was allowed back from exile. Didn't particularly perform that well, No,
I would say if he was trying to prove something on Saturday,
he did not make a statement. No. But I expected Everton to struggle, and they actually did really well through the midfield. And it really comes down to Ross Barkley, the 19-year-old phenom.
He's looking great so far.
He is looking great. And they kind of gave him that free reign role that they gave to Fellaini and allowed him to kind of wander wherever he pleased and kind of attack and stir up attacks from all over the place. So I was really impressed with him. Thought he did a lot. Naismith obviously made a big contribution in the match. So overall, I thought, Everton looked pretty well.
Tottenham 2, Norwich 0.
Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm grinning ear to ear over here right now.
Yeah, I'll just be over here eating my Skip's tingly prawn cocktails.
Well, that sounds interesting.
It's disgustingly good.
Huh. Yeah.
Feel great with this A&W root beer I'm drinking.
Man, you guys are getting a small snapshot into Jeremy's life today.
First, and my diet.
Yeah, and his diet. First, it's Thai food. Now it's what are they called again?
Skips. Tingly prawn cocktail flavor. That's the flavor. That's the whole flavor.
Are they chips?
Prawn. They're like these. They're almost like communion wafers. They kind of dissolve on your tongue.
Where does one even buy Skips?
Jungle Gyms, because this is actually a product of Ireland.
Okay, interesting. So back to Spurs. So I am grinning, ear to ear on this thing right now, and Spurs look like Spurs this weekend. They were really impressive. And I think that really all comes down to, as far as performances go, bringing in Christian Eriksen. He had a hell of a match for Spurs. Really brought that kind of lacking creativity that we've been missing over the first couple games. Something, to kind of spring us forward in the final third.
So would you say in the depth chart of great transfer move, is he go ahead or behind Soldado?
Soldado, had a good game as well. Obviously didn't score.
No, they had no PKs for him to score.
He did have a heeled ball saved off the line, a really clever little heel ball. I thought Soldado still played really well. I mean, he's still producing, moving around quite a bit up top, so he's producing things that we weren't necessarily getting out of Adebayor or Defoe when we actually let them lead the line. But Eriksen was definitely the difference for us. I can't say it enough. I loved watching him kind of slice up defenses with clever little balls through. Overall, Sigurdsson made a big statement with all the signings that have come in. People like Chadley, people like Lamela.
Because he was the big name last year.
Yeah.
He was one of the big guys they brought in.
Yeah. I mean, we stole him away from Liverpool, apparently, and maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Liverpool could probably do some better business. But that said, he had to make a statement.
Does Liverpool have dial-up or something? They seem to always be just a step behind.
I
when
think
it comes, are they faxing everything these days?
Maybe they are. Maybe they're still, trying to send everything. They're putting everything through tweets now, private tweets.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good move.
Who knows? Man, I'm just rambling on here about this. Overall, it was a great performance.
So 4 matches in, how do you feel?
I'm feeling pretty good. Losing to Arsenal, everyone kind of puts a lot on that match, and
sure,
I don't necessarily think that everyone should have expected as much out of that as we did. Spurs tend to struggle at the Emirates, tend to struggle whenever they're playing away to Arsenal. So I wasn't exactly, not expecting us to pull off a win. I thought we were capable of it. We probably could have pulled off one, if we had a little bit more creativity in the final third. And that's what Eriksen finally brings to the team. So Norwich, maybe not the best of competition, kind of a yo-yo team. They're, right in the middle of the pack as far as the Premier League is concerned. But at the same time, you can take a lot of promise from it. So overall, I think it was a really, really good game for Spurs. So I could keep talking about this if you want
United 2, Crystal Palace 0.
Wayne Rooney.
That's a cool headgear, Wayne.
Yeah, it was really cool. I promise I'm not.
Is he like a rock star from the 80s, a drummer from the 80s? Is that thing soaked in acid?
Perhaps. Maybe it's just, soaking in through his skin. Yeah, that could be it. I saw someone else suggest that he looked like one of the robbers from Home Alone after he had his head lit on fire and half his hat had burned off.
Yeah,
kind of looked like that. Yeah, Marv. So it wasn't the best looking of pieces. The funny thing is, and I promise I'm not getting paid for this, Starelli is the brand that actually makes that headgear that he wore. And I played with the guy who founded Starelli.
Really?
Yeah. He was a transfer student going to West Carrollton High School, which is just south of Dayton. Goalkeeper from Italy. Came in, great kid, played pretty well for us.
Wait, he was living in Italy, and he thought, I want to come to America. I should go to West Carrollton, Ohio.
Yeah, it's a great place to go.
Wow, who was his travel agent?
I don't know. That maybe he thought he was going to like Daytona.
Boy, it was close.
Who knows? But long story short, kid ends up making this, kind of protective gear company, and sure enough, it was Starelli, and it was on Wayne Rooney's head, protecting the gigantic gash on his forehead.
What officially was that from? It was like training, right?
I think it was from training, yeah. So I think he bashed heads with someone or hit his head on something. Long story short, he's got a humongous gash.
They're saying it's training, and really he just got drunk and just fell into a brick wall.
Yeah, that could possibly be it as well. You never know with Wayne Rooney.
Keg stand malfunction there?
Maybe he was out with a prostitute and banged heads with her.
That's never happened before.
No, never.
Man,
never.
Live a clean life. How dare you?
Yeah, I'm sorry to steal your name, Wayne Rooney.
He doesn't like old prostitutes either.
No. Anyway, they played a match, and he scored in it. He scored in it.
He did. That was a beautiful free kick there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great free kick. And then RVP got the other one.
Yeah, it was
off a penalty. Mm-hmm. Kind of a dubious penalty with that one. But Ashley Young, he's just turned into quite the diver. It's winning Man United penalties.
There's those who do and those who don't.
That's true.
And those who don't start diving.
That's true.
Manchester United, at this point, what do we feel about them?
They aren't really impressing. They're grinding out results, but that's what United do.
I pointed it out, last week. Until this weekend, they had only scored in one of their matches.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not blown away by them.
Right.
I mean, this was the team that just ran away with it last year.
Right.
Well,
did they run away with it because they were so good, or did they run away with it because everyone else was kind of fighting?
Was that bad?
Yeah, or everyone else was busy fighting it out behind them. No one could stay consistent enough to challenge them.
I think there's credit to. I'll give you credit on that one, because I think a lot of people after last season were still quick to say, despite the record, despite how well they did,
they were missing things.
This was far from Sir Alex's best side.
Yeah,
far from it.
I think what the idea was when United allowed him to retire, or he decided he was going to retire, was to leave them well set up for the future. So you look across that roster, and a lot of it's pretty young. I mean, they have a lot of young guys in the back: Chris Smalling, Phil Jones, Johnny Evans is still particularly young. They had this new Eastern European kid that played in the back for them this weekend that did pretty well. So, I mean, they have a lot of these young talents. That's just in the back. I mean, you look, further forward, they have a wealth of younger talent up that way as well. And I think that was their goal, is they just wanted to leave them kind of well set up for when a new manager came in and took over everything, so that he wouldn't necessarily have to go out and make a bunch of, humongous buys. Now, they did go out and buy Fellaini, but I think that's a player they've been desperately needing for a really long time. So, I think that was the kind of part of their idea. But at the same time, you're right. They weren't like a finished picture. They weren't the best side that he's had in a long time, despite their runaway win in the Premiership. But I'm kind of like you. I don't. They still aren't really doing it.
Because so even yesterday, 2-0 over Crystal Palace, but you got to look at that as they played a good bit of that game up a man, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So how is it only 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I feel like if you're Manchester United, you should be able to just put a hurting on these clubs.
Yeah, well, especially a newly promoted one, playing away from home.
And you got to think, you got to look at history and say that you have to do that. Look at City. City won the league because they put a hurting on bad teams and that goal differential.
That's true.
They dropped, what was it, on Norwich? They beat them 7-1 one time.
Yeah,
And that was basically it right there.
And that's enough to win you the title. So
I think that a lot more is still expected out of them.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
they're just coming off. They had a loss. They've already had that snoozer with Chelsea.
Yeah. Yeah, but you look at United over the years, and they tend to, waver a little bit at the beginning of the season, find their feet, and then once they find their feet, they just kind of chug along. Now, maybe without Sir Alex there, maybe it won't go as smoothly. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, this is a time of transition, and I don't know that winning the title necessarily is like a shoe-in thing for them. I think the entire organization knows that, but at the same time, I think they have a little bit to be worried about. But luckily, no one behind them is really, tearing things up either.
No, let's move to, Sunderland 1, Arsenal 3.
Right. So playing at Stadium of Light.
Mm-hmm. Jose got screwed. Can we start with that?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Jose Altidore gets completely hosed on what should have been his first EPL goal in that jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no disputing that Martin Atkinson not only butchered the call, but butchered it to the point where he didn't even allow the play to finish.
Yeah.
So let's start, if you didn't happen to see the match, let's explain what exactly happened there. So Josie Altidore receives a ball and just gets, at the top of the box and gets completely
just mobbed. I mean, both hands on him.
By Senya from Arsenal.
Both hands kind of on the top of his
I mean, it was like he had him by the shoulders and jersey, like he had a great grip on him. And Josie was kind of fighting him.
This is in the box.
This is in the box, yeah. So right as they're entering the box, Josie muscles him off.
Yeah.
Completely muscles him off.
But cleanly,
yeah. And before he has the chance to unleash his shot, Atkinson calls the foul back. Not only not in the box, and granted, Senya did start grabbing him outside the box, so if you were going to call the foul where it started, It would have been outside the box. But still, you would have said, maybe they'll get a penalty out of this. But Josie not only muscled him off, but also finished the damn ball.
Oh, beautiful. A little trickler.
And we got to see goal line technology a little bit because it trickled all the way in, and then someone came and cleared it out. And it was clearly over. I mean, you didn't even need goal line technology to tell you that. Sure. But Atkinson calls it back all the way. So I just don't understand how he didn't allow the play to play on. It's not like Altidore went down and lost the ball. He still had it at his feet. So, and, Senya did have him wrapped up for a minute. I can kind of see that. But, look, I'm all fired up here.
So frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it was super frustrating. He also had a goal earlier in the match ruled off for offside, just narrowly offside. And I had originally reported that he had gotten screwed there. And after seeing replays, I'll admit I got that one wrong. But
he was offside.
Yeah. But that would have leveled things up for them, 2-2 at that point in the match.
Yeah,
it completely changed the match.
Could have completely, we'd be talking about something completely different. Either a draw or, Sunderland finds their legs from that point. And
yep.
Who knows?
Yeah. So, and they had Arsenal on the back foot that entire stretch. There was probably a 10-15 minute stretch where they really dominated possession, and Arsenal looked like they were going to lose that thing. So, well, maybe not lose it, but potentially drop some points. So, it really did turn the match back on its head. They had Ramsey had 2 goals towards the end. Actually, really well taken goals.
Beautiful.
The problem with Ramsey, though, is when he scores, people die.
That is true. I've heard about this.
Yeah. So
do you have?
I do have a list here.
Let's do the Aaron Ramsey death roll call.
Yeah. So when Aaron Ramsey scores, and he went a long time without scoring for Arsenal, so we didn't really get to see this laid out. But when he scores, people die, and it's not just like random people; it's like big time people.
Celebrities, generally, yeah.
So most of these are in 2011. He had a goal against Man United. Osama bin Laden died the next day. So
not really broken up about that.
No, but everyone's fist pumping. America.
Keep slotting them home.
Yeah, the Welshman does a trick for America. That same year that he had a goal against Marseille, and Colonel Gaddafi was also killed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I dragged him right on out.
Yeah.
Took care of him.
In February of 2012, there was another one in 2011. I didn't have the date written down, but Steve Jobs died a few days later. I think that one isn't quite what it is, but you could.
He is not a terrorist.
I would be willing to blame that on Aaron Ramsey, so we'll include that one just for fun. In February of 2012 against Sunderland, Whitney Houston died.
Well,
no bodyguard there for tonight.
Crack is whack.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. And there was some special pony that died when he scored a goal earlier this year. I couldn't quite get a good story on what that pony was, but
the one from Parks and Rec, Little Sebastian.
It might have been. Who knows? The other thing that we haven't talked about with this match was Ozil making his debut.
Yeah, he looked good.
Yeah, he really did.
Set up Giroud on that first one.
Yeah, and with a fabulous ball. And there were the hysteria that surrounded that assist. You would have thought that, Jesus himself descended.
Just to slot
that ball.
He's a big guy.
He is a big guy for them.
This is a big side.
And maybe this is me being a little jealous that Arsenal made a signing like that.
I'm sensing just a tinge, but not too much.
Not too much. I love him as a player, and I was a little gutted to see him go to the Gunners. I didn't necessarily want them to land a player of his caliber, and he did go there, and I will admit that I have some sour grapes about it.
All right.
Let's talk about some of these other games.
Liverpool doesn't play till tomorrow. We can't. It's Swansea.
They play at Swansea. Could be a tricky match.
Let's go to the turd of the big clubs.
Man City?
Stoke, 0. City,
0. Mark Hughes coming back to haunt the citizens.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. That's got to be the storyline of it, because there really wasn't a whole lot else to that match.
Yeah, I got down here for my notes. City's still looking average. On the other side, though, Stoke quietly with 7 points.
Yeah. They're actually doing fairly well.
Humming it along to 7 points.
I hate Stoke, too. It's one of those things. It's one of those clubs that just kind of grind your gears. But it was one of those kind of typical experiences for City. When you go up north to Stoke, get a draw, grind it out. Stoke kind of frustrate you.
Yeah.
So
you're right. That's a Stoke match.
Yeah, it really is. Really an unsurprising result.
A very unwatchable game.
Yeah.
If NBC learns anything, they need to know that to never air a Stoke game.
That would be great. Well,
which they aired their first match out of the gate was Liverpool-Stoke.
Well, there are probably some people down in Dallas that are kind of Breck Shea fans that are shaking fists at us right now.
He hasn't even made an appearance.
Juan Agudelo will be joining them in January as well.
No,
so
he can sit on the bench too?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
That's good.
Great place for a forward to go, by the way.
I don't think this is what Klinsmann had in mind when he said go abroad.
Yeah, don't go to Stoke, you idiots.
Don't go to Stoke, they won't play you.
Yeah. So that one was pretty boring. There was another really boring one today, Southampton-West Ham. I'm going to admit I didn't watch it, and I watched the highlights. Not going to go back to
the DVR on this one?
No, I watched the highlights and was just like, man, I am really glad I missed that match. So I had my own match today.
Yeah, let's divert
here. Little dovetail to the Dayton Amateur Soccer League.
We talked about EPL. Now let's get into the real pro soccer.
Yeah, absolutely. The real pro soccer here in Dayton. So I play for a little team called Yellow Springs International. If you don't know the area, Yellow Springs is the home of Dave Chappelle.
I was going to say, is Dave Chappelle
on
your
that's about
jersey?
The only reason he's not.
That should be the crest, is just Dave Chappelle's head.
That would be awesome if we could get Dave Chappelle as a sponsor. We used to be a sponsored team, and we just lost our sponsor. So, Dave Chappelle.
Mr. Chappelle.
If you're listening, and I'll do my damnedest to make sure you listen to this pod. That said, I did have my first match today of the season. I missed the last one because I was in Texas last week. I played the full 90. I'm 31 years old. That is a struggle.
Was that a bad choice?
That is a struggle. I'm not in the best of shape at the moment. I've been flying about, busy at work, all those kind of things. Took the summer off. A lot of late nights, scribing away. And I admit that I was not in the best of shape. And we played a team that likes to run. And I'm a left back. So I had a lot of balls dumped over the top of my head today, and I am feeling pretty sore. But we pulled out the 2-1 win.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah. So, hail to the victors.
Now that one goal, is that on your head?
It wasn't. It
Okay.
wasn't. I don't want to get into that because it was a refereeing decision. Really, yeah. I don't want to,
Ruffle
heap
feathers.
too much on the referees at the moment, but it was a poorly refereed match.
We'll just go a level up. Champions League starts this week.
It does.
Snuck up on you. I know
It
that.
really did, yeah.
I was like, hey, we're talking Champions League. You're like,
What, are we going to talk about the draw? I guess we'd skip talking about the draw. Oh, crap. That starts this week. And there are some doozy of matches, too. Some really entertaining
there's some great ones
on the docket this week.
I'll just get it started here. A, B, C, and D, they go Tuesday. So you got Man United, Bayer Leverkusen.
Right.
That'll be a decent one.
It shouldn't be too bad. Leverkusen have been a decent side of late.
Real Sociedad, Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah.
Kind of one of the many Cinderellas from last year.
Yeah, Shakhtar have been around for the last few years. Kind of, they always seem to draw Barcelona and get spanked.
Yeah, but they made it out of group last year.
That's true,
Thanks
they
to
did.
Chelsea just pooping the bed.
Well, it's Chelsea.
Good pants pooping by Chelsea.
Yeah, pants pooping. We're bringing it in. It's going to be a big phrase with the kids now.
Well, thanks to this Thai food, I might be really bringing it in.
Oh, my. Yeah.
Right,
Next match. Copenhagen are hosting Juventus. That should be a decent match.
Yeah, let's over in Group B. Other Group B match, Galatasaray, Real Madrid.
Real Madrid. Gareth Bale may make his second voyage into the Champions League. Should we talk about that just for a minute?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Just real quick. So Gareth Bale did make his debut.
Went well.
It went pretty well.
60-ish minutes.
Yeah, made it about 60 minutes. He played, in the international break, so I think he was looking a little drained.
Yeah.
It was the first time that we got to see the, two-headed dragon that is Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale. Bale lined up on the right, which was kind of curious. We're not used to seeing him start off matches over there. Definitely looked a little out of place, playing almost exclusively on the right. They didn't really do too much swapping. I kind of expected he and Ronaldo might switch things up. And every once in a while he made a foray to the left, but he did get on the score sheet before Cristiano.
Huge. That's huge, yeah.
Yeah. So a little poker. He poked the ball in. Not anything, to really light the highlight reel on fire or anything like that. But he got that big monkey off his back, which I think was kind of huge for him.
But you move to Tuesday. This right here. This is why he made that move.
This is why he made the move. He had ambition.
Well, there's
apparently we
two
lack.
reasons why he made the move. One, he's Welsh, so he's never going to play in the World Cup.
Well, that's true. And that's got to sting.
So that creates B, the biggest stage he can ever play on.
It's the Champions League.
It's the Champions League.
And he's done well in it so far. So, anyway, best of luck to you, Gareth. It was fun.
Was that a genuine best of luck?
I thought I would struggle watching that match. I really did.
It was all right?
There was definitely a little twinge of, this kind of sucks. But, I want to see him do all right. Anyway, so other matches that were going on.
Group C, Olympiacos versus PSG.
Yeah.
Benfica versus
Anderlecht. Yeah.
I guess we should probably be saying who we want coming out of these.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think A is going to probably be United. I would say United. I'm going to say Shakhtar does it again.
Yeah, I could see them getting out. Leverkusen, they tend to waver a little bit once they do get into Europe. Mm-hmm. You'd think that would be the other team that could in there. Real Sociedad really did have a great season last year, and they're off to a decent start in Spain again, so they could be a surprise. But I do think it's probably going to be United and Shakhtar.
Group B. I guess that's pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Juventus
and Madrid. I think that those are kind of your shoe-ins. It'll create for a great match or two in there.
C, you go in PSG, Benfica?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think that's probably your best bets there.
All right, Group D, Bayern Munich will play CSKA Moscow.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun matchup.
It should be decent. I do think, Munich will probably end up steamrolling them.
Yeah, probably.
Most likely. City are playing.
Who the F is that?
Victor Plzen.
Okay.
Yeah. I probably know Victoria Plzen. I knew I would butcher it. I don't even know where the hell they're from.
You know what? At least you took a swing.
I did.
I opted out.
I'd be willing to say it's Eastern Europe. Someone is probably just shaking their heads at us right now going, these morons run a podcast, and they're just spouting off nonsense.
Well, but let's talk about D here.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich, I don't see any reason why they're not going through. They'll probably win all their matches, in fact.
Yeah, you'd expect them to.
City have been terrible.
In the Champions League. For City, the Champions League has been their Mount Everest.
It has.
And they can't really seem to climb it and make it to the summit. They seem to always crap out at, base camp.
So, what was it last year?
They finished bottom of the group.
But, with what? A couple points, I think?
Yeah, I mean, it was really...
Barely anything.
They had a really poor showing. It was an extremely poor showing. Because they didn't even qualify for Europa. Yeah. So, which worked out well for them. Not really. Because they weren't really able to capitalize in the league.
They weren't as freaking winded like Chelsea was playing 60-some-odd matches that year.
That's true. So you would think they're the second best team in that group.
Right. So you think maybe Pellegrini?
I think he's going to make the difference for him. I think they're still filling it out. He's a great coach in Europe. Did really well with Villarreal back in the early 2000s, getting them really deep into the tournament on several occasions. So I think he could be.
He's had a pretty good run.
Yeah.
As far as just getting teams in there.
Well, I mean, he had Malaga all the way to the semifinals.
Absolutely.
Was it the semifinals last year? So he's a great coach. He kind of was hard done when he was with Real Madrid. That was kind of his first big move. Came in right at the same time Ronaldo did, and things didn't really, fit well with Ronaldo and him. So
yeah.
I think he could be the difference maker, and I think City will actually make it out of the group this year.
All right. I don't know. I guess Shakhtar's the closest thing we got to a Cinderella out of those four groups.
Yeah, most likely.
All right, Wednesday, the big match we're all worried about. Chelsea, Basel. Chelsea actually is grouped with two teams they beat last year in their Europa knockout rounds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's one for the statistician. Well, Basel, they've kind of been a yo-yo team in and out of the Champions League the last few years. They made a real deep run a couple years back. I think made it to the quarterfinals on the back of Shaqiri, that it's now at Bayern Munich. I think they'll give them a little bit of a challenge, but Chelsea are playing at home. You would expect that they would do pretty well. Let's be honest. Mourinho is there, so they win the Champions League again.
And they got a pretty decent draw.
Yeah,
this
they
is
really
a pretty easy draw.
It's not a bad group to be in.
I mean, I'm looking at
Schalke.
Another
team that's had moderate success over the last few years, but aren't particularly playing very well at the moment.
I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah. And then Steaua Bucharest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've been in the Champions League, but they tend to, not make it beyond this stage. So you guys do kind of have a cupcake draw as far as your group's concerned.
Schalke will host Bucharest also.
Yeah. Group F is absolutely the best.
But a lot of people are going G, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see Ajax in there, but they're not really the club that they were when they were winning Champions League back in the 90s. Celtic obviously are a, shadow of their former selves, just struggling to, even stay afloat in Scotland. I mean, that whole league is barely solvent at this point.
Disaster.
That's kind of what I have to say about Group G. I mean, you look at those four clubs, and they're four clubs that have excellent European pedigrees, but two of them really aren't the clubs that they were anymore. I mean, let's be honest. Ajax, all they really are a farm team for all the bigger clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
I'm saying that as I look at Christian Eriksen tearing shit up for us in Spurs.
It's worked well
for Spurs,
you.
yeah. And, Vertonghen came from Ajax as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you look around Europe, and a lot of those teams are peppered with players that started off at Ajax. So that's kind of why they are what they are these days. And it's sad. And it's sad to think of teams like Celtic and Ajax not really being able to get out of their group anymore. But let's be honest. You look at that group, and you see Barcelona and AC Milan, and those two teams are going to be the ones.
Pencil them in.
Yeah.
Go ahead and pencil them in. And, I guess let's go to H, and then we're going to circle back around to F.
Yeah.
Since that's the one that's probably going to have the most debate.
Yeah.
Atletico Madrid will start off against Zenit.
Yep.
Shouldn't be too difficult for them.
It shouldn't be, but, I mean, where are they going? I can't see that match right now. Are they playing?
They're home.
They're at home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you would think they would win. They're a team that consistently seem to sell off their best players, a lot like Ajax, a lot like a Porto, that sell them off but still continue to perform pretty well. And it's good to see them back in the Champions League. You know, they're always in the shadow of their neighbors in the city. But I think that you're absolutely right. They should have that match.
Austria, Vienna, FC Porto.
Porto, you would imagine, would win that one. You know,
Yeah.
Vienna aren't exactly the powerhouse like they were back in like the 20s and 30s, so we probably won't see much of that.
We're probably in agreement that it's going to be FC Porto, Atletico.
Yeah, you would imagine. But crazier things have happened.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at what Celtic did last year. I mean, they created some problems.
They did. And, you know, we saw a team from Cyprus make it all the way into the quarterfinals a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Malaga's run last year.
Yeah, Malaga's run. So there's always going to be someone that's going to surprise you. And while you can always sit here and look through these groups and kind of pick out the two big teams in them, and most of the time that's what happens, sometimes a little Cinderella comes along.
Yeah.
So
let's go to
the one that we skipped over, the real group of death, Group F.
Napoli will start off. They host
Dortmund,
runner-up.
That's going to be a fun match to watch.
I'm excited about this.
Looking down that fixture list today, and I saw that match, I went, ooh, man, maybe I'll be calling in sick that day. That'd be
that cough going?
Yeah. you know, burst up from my desk and act like I'm throwing up, go to the bathroom, come back a few minutes later, hey, I need to go home. Conveniently in time for the Napoli-Dortmund match.
Just take a can of vegetable soup with you and just crack her open.
Man, puking red tomato sauce. Anyway, that's going to be an awesome match. Who else we got going in that one?
Arsenal's playing Marseille.
Marseille.
We live in an area where they call it Versailles, Kentucky.
Yeah, Versailles is definitely the way that's pronounced in France.
That's how it's pronounced.
And
absolutely.
so we will call it Marseilles.
Marcellus Wiley.
Yeah. They'll be taking on Le Arsenal. And, you know.
Two French clubs.
Yeah, they really are pretty much two French clubs. This is going to be a tough match for Arsenal. You know, obviously they're flying a little high at the moment. Ozil is obviously going to be a huge boost for them. And you would expect Arsenal, the team coming from the bigger league, you know.
Yeah.
You would expect they should clean that up. But Marseille have been a really good team over the last few years in Europe. And they've caused some tremendous issues for Real Madrid. You know, knocked them out of the tournament several times. So, you know, maybe not the team that they once were, but I think they could still give Arsenal issues.
So who you got?
I still think coming out of this group, and I said this online, so people have probably seen this before.
So it's already in paper.
It's already out there, but I would say that I'm going to see Dortmund. You know, I'm gonna pick them, obviously, finalists from last year.
Sure.
Fantastic squad.
They still have Lewandowski, right?
Yep.
Okay, mark them down.
Yep, so let's put them through. And I think Napoli are going to be the other team out.
You suck.
Why?
That was my like, oh, look what I'm going to do here.
Yeah, well, sorry. I hate Arsenal, so I would like to see them crash out. And for me to, you know, kind of do a little dance. Now, the problem with that is I would assume they'd probably finish third. That means they go to the Europa League, which means they could potentially face Spurs. It would be nice to have a North London European derby.
You know, I was going to pick Napoli. Since I had that taken out from under me,
Sorry.
I'm going to go, I'm not going Arsenal. I'm going to go our friend Marcel Marceau.
Marcel the monkey from Friends is going to be the second team out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now you have gotten the more shocking pick.
Yes, I win.
Yeah. Congratulations. You win a drink of your root beer.
Yeah, I win a terrible choice.
Yeah, absolutely. One that we can probably laugh at in a few months.
When they finish with 2 points.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk more about Marcel on this podcast. Fun.
Marcel.
All right. So, let's talk about some other football, a little domestic football.
Sure.
Want to talk about some MLS? Let's talk a little bit about results before we get into this expansion talk, which I think is kind of
There was some good matches this weekend.
There were. So there was a top of the table clash out west.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Dish Network. A little naughty last night. They decided not to black out any of the MLS games on the regional
nice
channels. So I watched Chivas Portland, watched a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Watched a little bit of Colorado FC Dallas.
Yeah.
That was delightful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dish Network, for completely doing something you might have to pay a fine for.
Yeah, absolutely. Great work, guys.
Good job. They even had an HD.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, hey, blocked out on the HD, but the standard version. No. You got full crystal of Roots, whatever, playing a Portland game.
Nice.
I loved it.
That's great. A stroke of luck.
Here's to Dish.
Thanks, Dish.
Thanks for being incompetent.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about that Real Salt Lake Seattle match. So like I was saying, top of the table clash, for all the marbles to see who's going to have the best record in the West at the moment. Salt Lake have kind of been at the top most of the season, dominating things.
Yeah.
And Seattle had a really poor start. In fact, they were bottom of the West after the first few matches. And they are now, after completing a 2-0 kind of dominating performance, top of the table in the West. Clint Dempsey effect, despite the fact he has yet to score.
Yeah, he's yet to show up on the score sheet there.
And, you feel bad for Dempsey because he's getting all these kind of, people saying, you come over, you're the most expensive player in the league, and you really, you haven't done much yet. And people are going to ride him if he doesn't produce. But at the same time, his team's winning. So, how can you really be that upset?
And they started playing better once he got there. I mean,
yeah.
There's going to be those people. It's just like the Beckham situation we talked about a couple weeks ago. There's going to be the novice fan that's going, oh, he's not scoring yet.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
He must suck.
Yeah. So, his team manages a big win. The other curious thing about that, now that they're top of the table, they actually still have 2 games in hand as well. So they could potentially extend that lead. Even if they go into a little bit of a, bad stretch, they could potentially pull it out. So big result for them. In Seattle, in front of another crowd of 45,000 plus.
Good crowds in Seattle.
Yeah. So.
Just not magical ones.
Just not magical ones. Well, you guys can't have Columbus either. It's ours.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Columbus.
Hey, how about those guys?
How about those guys? They make a trip up to Canada, playing one of the best teams in the East, in Montreal, and they get a come-from-behind win.
Oh, yeah.
Shocking, because that's the first time that's happened all season.
It was a good game.
It actually was a good game.
I got home, and it was on the DVR, and since I already knew the score of the other game on my DVR,
right,
I immediately moved forward over to watching that game.
Nice.
Fantastic match.
It was a really good game.
They were all over the place.
I mean, they really were all over the place.
They played strong. They've done this, throughout the year. They've
kind of seesawed.
They're a bad team that has shown some brilliance.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny the way everyone else is playing ahead of them right now. Chicago's dropped some kind of important matches against Toronto recently. They dropped some points there. They did manage a win yesterday. Houston have been struggling as of late, although I say that, and they win again today as well. There are some teams ahead of them that are dropping points, and they've kept themselves just on the edge of potentially, if results go the right way and they can win out, possibly getting into the playoffs. Now, that said, if they make it in, expect a first-round exit.
Yeah. Quick little, hey, guys, how's the playoffs?
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
And let's just get it into the offseason a little bit earlier and try to fix some of this stuff.
Like the rest of Ohio's sports teams when it comes to the playoffs.
Yes, absolutely. Some other good results. New York got a 2-0 win over Toronto. That kind of helped them move to the top of the table in the East, helped them out, especially with Montreal losing. D.C. getting a shock 2-2 draw with L.A. Although L.A. was on the road, D.C. have been pretty bad this year. So L.A. continuing to kind of linger around near the top, but not quite assert themselves. But they always seem to save themselves for the playoffs.
All right, let's talk about the lingering teams here real quick. We got 5 games left.
Yep.
What are those kind of bubble teams that should really probably be hitting the panic button like, hey, we need to get it going now, or we might as well just, start planning that?
So Chicago's
vacation.
The first team that immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, they're kind of hovering right there.
They really do. Mike McGee has had one hell of a season. We were talking a little bit about this before the pod kicked off. There have got to be fans in L.A. that are just hating this.
Yeah. I mean, that's a guy that they, in some ways, kind of by the MLS, were sort of kind of forced to trade off. They were forced to kind of make this move.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted Robbie Rogers.
They did.
And
Rogers wanted to be there.
Rogers wanted to be in L.A., and McGee was the one who actually suggested, like, well, I'll go to Chicago. And he's from the area. So he was the one who wanted it. But at the same time, I can't imagine
Did McGee
deep
do
down.
that thinking that's somewhere he could go and kind of be the guy? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely on his mind a little bit. I think he saw himself as a guy that could make a difference for Chicago, and he certainly
Absolutely
has. But the rest of his team just can't keep it up for him. They're struggling to play consistently. They're dropping points to teams they shouldn't. So Chicago, as of right now, are in with their win this weekend. But they're one of those teams that if they can't stay on a good streak, they could absolutely wobble out.
I mean, yeah, with 5 matches left, a lot can change.
Yeah. Some other teams that are, we thought were fine earlier in the year, Philadelphia, they were up towards the top of the table, and they have really hit kind of a cold streak over the last.
What's their story?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. Jack McInerney, the young guy that's been playing up top for them, that's been playing so well, at least in the first half of the season.
Come back down to earth.
He's come back down to earth, isn't really performing as well as he had, so, maybe that plays its part. New England, another team that's kind of been on the bubble all year. They have almost done it. They've, now slipped back out of the playoff spot. So that's just out east. But then you look at teams like FC Dallas, another team, that's kind of yo-yoed all year.
And they lost this weekend.
And they did lose this weekend. So, Portland Timbers, another team that's been playing well, but don't seem to always get the results they should. And, right now they're in, but they could potentially be out.
Should have beat Chivas.
Yeah, but the one team that really shocks me that's doing really poorly is San Jose. I mean, they're way down at the bottom of the table after being a pretty good team. They won the Supporters' Shield last year. Now
How much of that was just Wondolowski just
riding that wave?
Hair on fire.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been a huge portion of it, but they're definitely playing below their ability level.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be an interesting few weeks.
We're kind of at the table, home stretch here.
You look at the table, and there are plenty of teams that could easily fall in and out of this race and gain themselves, a foot in the door.
Oh, absolutely.
So we talked about results. Let's talk about the rumors.
This is the best part.
Forget
about the stuff on the field. Let's speculate about where those fields will exist.
Absolutely. Wild speculation is one of my favorites. So
I'm glad we're on the same page on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know that MLS has designs to expand to 24 teams. That's been announced. It's official.
Mm-hmm. They announced that at the All-Star. They always have their kind of commissioner makes his big state of the league or whatever it is at the All-Star game.
And Garber reveals we're going to jump up to 24 teams. Right now we're at 19. We know number 20 is going to be New York City FC.
And this is by 2020.
Yes, by 2020. So we've got a little bit of time.
That's some time, but still to make four franchises.
Yeah,
appear out of nowhere.
We know that Orlando is going to be one of them. There's just no doubting it.
They have all their ducks in a row. Right?
They have, they've got their stadium deal almost finalized. Yeah,
$20 million fund for stadium is on the verge of being approved.
They just won the USL Championship in front of like a crowd of 22,000 fans of their own.
That matters.
I mean, that's an absolutely amazing result. Quite the shootout, that match. It was like 5-3.
Wow.
Or something ridiculous. It might even been more goals than that. Either way, we know Orlando is going to be one of those teams in. So there's 21. Other teams that seem to be in. Miami. Team Beckham. There's been a lot of chatter about that.
Yeah, I guess they're thinking this is probably going to be Team Beckham. A buddy of mine, Simon Evans, he's a soccer writer, lives down in Miami, works for Reuters. And he's kind of been following this a little bit because it's right there in his backyard that, especially at the early part of the season, Beckham was in Miami a crap ton.
Right.
He was hanging out and doing events in Miami.
Went to a couple Heat games.
Yep.
Sitting courtside.
Mm-hmm.
Rubbing elbows with the right people.
And it's Bolivian billionaire Marcelo. Oh, I'm going to blow your last name, dude. Klur?
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Billionaire guy.
That billionaire guy that's
from
friends
Bolivia.
with David Beckham.
He appears to kind of be, I guess, the front runner to be the
lead investor.
Yeah, the whale.
Right.
I guess their problem is where they're going to play.
Yeah,
big concern.
That is the concern. There's a great article a little while back, and I I apologize to the author. Here we are, just butchering credit to people. A great article kind of talking about how they have to put the stadium right off South Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're going to get any of the walk-up traffic that Miami needs, because we know that they've already had a franchise and the Fusion failed miserably.
Well, and this is let's be honest. I'll pull the scope out a little bit broader. This is a city in general that has struggled with professional sports attendance.
Absolutely.
Marlins get a new stadium. It didn't help in the least.
Nope.
To improve, their attendance, and not only that. This city just spent a bunch of money on a stadium.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to be too willing to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. And we know we can't see them playing in a football stadium, can we?
Even the Heat have had some difficulties.
Right.
With sellouts. I mean, that's a team that should always sell out the game. So just pro sports in Miami has always not been the biggest slam dunk.
Right.
So with that being said, could it work in Miami? It already didn't once.
Yeah. You could see that. You could see it not working. You could see it working potentially if they get the right mix in. I mean, I think
that's the thing. I think anywhere it has to be the right mix, but it's just getting to that.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is if they do build a stadium in South Beach, where are they going to find? I mean, yeah, you need a billionaire to build a stadium in South Beach. I mean, land value there is through the roof. So,
and according to Al Gore, it'll be underwater in a couple of years.
It could be.
So they're effed.
Well, he's up there mountain ice in the Arctic to make sure that prediction comes true.
Prove me right.
Yeah, he's got a leaf blower hooked up to a fire, a big fire, and he's just melting all the ice.
It's just an aerosol can and a Bic lighter.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
So I guess Miami. Would you slot Miami in as second closest?
No.
Or third closest?
I think they're third closest right now.
Atlanta.
So there's the club that's gaining steam right now.
Well, I guess they've been having meetings.
So they've been having a lot of meetings.
Arthur Blank, who owns the Falcons.
Right.
Weird looking dude.
He is a weird looking dude, but he's been a big proponent of getting soccer to Atlanta. He's talked a long time about MLS getting a team.
Now here's the thing. Maybe I'm reading this completely wrong. They're saying that they do have a stadium because the Falcons are moving. Does that mean they're going to play in the Georgia Dome?
There's no way.
Because that's where that would be the vacant stadium that could, that would need a new tenant.
Or are they implying that whatever the new stadium is where they're going to play?
Boy, I hope so.
So,
I guess that stadium won't be ready till 2017. They just got approval for it.
Right.
Yeah, they can't play in the Georgia Dome.
They can't. They absolutely can't play in the Georgia Dome.
The Georgia Dome is an absolute crap hole.
Right.
It sucks. It's also indoors, hence the word dome, and it seats like 1 million people.
Right. I mean,
three things the MLS does not want their stadium to have.
I mean, there's absolutely no way that MLS is going to approve them playing in a dome.
Okay.
I just don't think that's even in the realm of possibilities. So my initial inclination, and I think they've talked about this for a long time now, is that they're going to play in wherever the Falcons' new home is.
So they've
been talking about building this stadium.
Model.
Yeah, I think that's what they're aiming for, and they're seeing all the success that they're having in Seattle. But what they have going on in Cascadia is wildly different than what is going on right now in, Southeast United States.
Well, let's talk about Atlanta for a second.
Okay.
Did I say that Miami was a bad pro sports town? Oh, wait, I forgot Atlanta exists.
Right.
Atlanta, attendance is generally not the biggest problem. Falcons will always have good crowds. I mean, it's a huge city.
Right.
Falcons will always have good crowds. Braves will always do decent. But outside of this, you're talking about a city that has failed to keep not one, but 2 NHL teams.
Right.
Atlanta Hawks struggle.
Right.
This is a city that has been labeled frequently as one of the worst sports cities in America.
Absolutely.
Nobody's from Atlanta who lives in Atlanta. You got a lot of big companies, IBM, Home Depot, Delta. Actually, Home Depot, Arthur Blank, co-owner of Home Depot.
Right.
So you're talking about a very transient city. No one really has a whole lot of roots. It's a team. It's a city that is not maybe the best fit from that standpoint.
Right.
I'm a little leery about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta strategically, as far as MLS is concerned,
Because they want to get in the Southeast.
they need to get into the Southeast. Like, there's no question. And is there a better city in the Southeast that's prepared to take on an MLS team?
Charlotte.
Charlotte would be the only other team or city that you would even look at.
Yeah.
And they have a third division side down there. They play in USL. But they've not exactly, they play in a high school stadium. They've not exactly had the results.
Yeah.
And we all know what playing in a high school stadium can do to you. No alcohol sales really kills the young crowd. It really does. And you look at, places like Charleston, the Battery, have their own stadium where they get good draws out because they actually have, dollar beer nights, and they can get big crowds out just because people will go somewhere to watch sports and drink. So
also, Charleston, large British community.
Yeah, that's true. There is a large British community down there as well. So I think Atlanta is probably their best shot, as far as the Southeast is concerned. Well,
it's funny because when me and Rob Stone, we weren't hanging out, just bromancing.
Right. Your BFF.
My BFF, Rob Stone. Well, one of the first things we sat there and were talking about was MLS expansion. And he said, you know what? He goes, I'm tired of hearing about the MLS looking to put, another team in New York and, putting a team in this big city. He goes, they need to be finding another Portland.
Yeah.
They need to go find another Seattle. They don't need to be looking for another New York or L.A.
But where are you going to find something like that?
Well, and that's true. Where are you going to find something?
So, real quick, before we get away from Atlanta, they do have a stadium in Atlanta right now, a soccer-specific stadium.
Who uses it?
The Silverbacks.
Oh!
Yeah. So, NASL Silverbacks, Atlanta.
Where's it at? Could you give me a location?
It is.
I know the Atlanta area fairly well.
It's on the northeast side of town.
Okay, that's a good place to be.
Yeah. It's not the biggest of venues right now. I think it can only seat, somewhere in the teens range as far as, a crowd is concerned. Mm-hmm. But it's easily expandable. So maybe, it's on the, a good side of town as far as, affluent suburbs and, getting the right type of crowd out.
Absolutely.
Maybe if they expand that stadium a little bit, it'll give them a better home to play in. We don't need another team necessarily sitting in an empty, NFL stadium.
But does Blank want to have to pay for renting out two places?
You would think he would probably be against that.
Yeah. So,
I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I think Atlanta is the place it needs to go. Is it necessarily the best setup? It's kind of like Miami again. I don't know that it's going to be the best place for those teams to go.
And, this is what me and Stone were kind of talking about when he said the reason why you don't want to be in a big city is because you look at L.A., you look at New York, Chicago, some of these cities where you may be able to draw a decent crowd just from the sheer volume of people that live in it. I mean, the Galaxy can blow it up with attendance because you can get 20,000 people to show up to anything in a city that big.
Well, except for Chivas USA matches.
Well, I think there was more people in my living room watching that match last night.
Most likely.
You want to be somewhere where you are front page news.
Absolutely.
As a sports team. In Portland, oh my goodness, you are. And even in Columbus, you are a lot closer to the front page than the Red Bull are in New York.
Right. Chicago is way outside of town. Dallas is way outside of town. L.A. is way outside of town.
And you're talking about, you just mentioned cities that outside of L.A. that are four sport cities.
Right, where competition's thick.
They have an NFL, NBA, NHL, and baseball team. In some of those cases, they have multiples.
Right.
So you have a lot of teams that you're trying to get that almighty dollar.
Right.
That discretionary spending from people.
Right.
And you're going to a city where they have a ton of options.
So let's talk about a city that is probably on the list of the teams that could make it into the Final Four.
And kind of fits into the category of what you're looking for.
Bingo. San Antonio.
Boom.
Yeah. So the San Antonio Scorpions, another NASL team, having a really good turnout. They built their own stadium, are getting crowds that rival, 10 to 15,000 on the regular, which is great. Which is great for a second division side in particular.
That's outstanding.
And they are a team that makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. So it's, a city that doesn't have many other pro sports franchises.
You got one.
You have one.
You have it's just like Portland. You have an NBA team.
Yep, and that's it.
Yeah.
That leaves you the rest of the year to try to suck in some of those sports fans. So that's one thing that they check off. 2, they actually have 2 fairly close geographic rivals.
Oh, yeah.
In Dallas and Houston. So those are drivable matches. It makes it possible for those fans to not have to hop on a plane to actually go and watch more than one game away.
Day trip it.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that appeals on a lot of different levels. And I think that's who my 4th team in is most likely, is San Antonio. I think they've proven that they can do it. Now, there will be some people that can, frown a little bit upon the idea of putting another team in Texas when, maybe a Phoenix makes more sense, or, maybe St. Louis, a town that's long had a rich soccer culture, youth soccer culture, college soccer culture.
Well, you look at a city near us. Indianapolis is a city that has a great soccer culture.
Right.
You look at some of the youth, academies in the Carmel and Fisher area.
Right. And they just haven't been able to hold on to a pro team.
Exactly.
So there's risks in going to places like that as well. And
sure.
Credit to Indy, they are going to have an NASL team of their own in the Indy 11 they'll be debuting here this next NASL season. And they have a lot of aspirations to go all the way to the MLS level as well. And Indianapolis is certainly a town, when you talk about towns that are large enough to sustain something like that.
And I want to say their people did a great job. I mean, they were kind of one of the key partners in putting on that Chelsea match there that they had about a month or so back.
Right. So they've shown well.
Yeah.
Another town that keeps creeping in the discussion, they're about to get a USL side, is Sacramento. A lot of people seem to think there's yet another town that doesn't have a whole lot of other professional sports going on there.
You're just fighting an NBA team,
NBA
team that may not
even be there. So they may be the only fully Division I pro league in the U.S. in that town.
Now, the mayor is a former NBA player.
Yeah.
So he might kind of favor one over the other.
Yeah, that's true. But that said, it could be a team that would be a good city for them to look at.
So, Orlando, number 1.
Yeah, Orlando's in.
Once again, we'll say it again. All you're fighting is the NBA.
Right.
That's a good situation.
Yep.
And Orlando seems like an area where people want this.
Yeah. Orlando City has consistently been churning out fans for the last couple of years. I met some of their supporters last year in Charleston when I caught a match down there. And, they had traveled all the way up from Orlando, drove up. There were probably about 30 to 40 of them that made that long trip. And obviously really support their team, and their numbers have shown that as far as how they've supported. So they're going to get that team. The other 3, though, I think they are a lot more up in the air than a lot of people will give it credit for.
Now this is all supposed to be done by 2020. Are we saying Orlando's the first one to step onto the pitch?
So they'll be Team 21.
Okay.
I'm almost 100% positive about that. They seem to have all the wheels in motion to get that done. They're going to get their stadium. They have the backing pretty much of MLS. MLS have pretty much told them, you guys build your stadium, we'll give you the team.
Yeah.
So
New York City starts 2015.
Yep.
So maybe 2016?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't rule out 2015.
Okay.
If they can get the stadium deal done quick and get construction started quick, maybe, but I think you're right. 2016 is probably where we're looking.
So where do we go from here then?
So if I had to guess, San Antonio is probably the next on the list.
Really? You think San Antonio is going to vault Atlanta and
I do think they
Miami?
probably will. If they can continuously prove that they can fill that park up, and if they can prove that they can expand it out a little bit pretty quickly, which I think that stadium's capable of doing, I think they could be the team that vaults in ahead of Atlanta because of those concerns about possibly playing in an NFL stadium.
Yeah, and I think Miami it's just one snafu after another with these guys.
Yeah.
Situation.
So who gets it if Miami doesn't get it?
I don't know.
This does leave a lot of chance for a lot of different cities to possibly get their hat into the MLS ring.
Yeah. So is 20 enough, though? Or 24 enough?
I think 24 is enough. I don't think we need to go any bigger than that.
Okay.
I definitely think that's the place we need to cut it off. I don't know that this country is large enough to sustain that many top-level clubs. A lot of people always, whenever expansion's brought up, this secondary discussion.
Is kind of a lot already if you look at some of the other leagues.
Yeah, but you look at leagues like the Championship, there are 24 teams that play in there.
Sure.
I don't think it's a number that doesn't work. Scheduling-wise, I think it works out really well. They can expand to 24 teams and keep the exact same number of games that they're playing right now by playing each of their in-conference foes home and away. So that's 22 matches against 11 sides, assuming that we're going with 12 teams in each conference, which you think they'd try to do.
Yeah. Would they go east-west?
I think so.
You like to call them east-west, but
if you happen to see the picture that I put on Twitter this week, I tried to diagram out.
It's been a long week for you.
It really has been. My brain's been a little fried from all the travel and matches and all that stuff. And I mislabeled my conferences. I had all the Eastern teams labeled under West, and then all the Western teams labeled under East. Some people thought I was just trying to be a clever smartass, but it was really just me being a dumbass.
I think I figured out what you did there. First team you went out was Kansas City, and I think that's what tripped you out. On your list, the first team you were out was Kansas City. And that's kind of like a border team, like which way are they in? East or west? And I think that's what tripped you out.
Here's what really tripped me out. I wanted to put West on the left side because when you look at a map, West is always on the left.
Sure.
And then I put East on the right because that obviously makes sense in that sense as well. But then I went from East to West listing all the teams. So I kind of started like the furthest East team was New England, and then I went on down the list. So I started off on the left side like a moron.
Yeah, you blew it.
I really did. So I really embarrassed myself publicly. Not only that, but got a lot of comments on my girly handwriting.
Well, that's your cross to bear.
Yeah,
One other part about the expansion I think that needs to be brought up, and when I was talking with Rob Stone, he mentioned it too, the Chivas USA situation.
Yeah.
Does that ever, for some of these teams that are or some of these cities that are looking at becoming one of these four teams, is that kind of almost a backup option to try to see if they can wrangle that away?
I think MLS absolutely want Chivas out.
Yeah.
And
How could you not?
I think they still want that second team in LA without a doubt.
You'd have to put it. You'd have to be smart about it.
I can't imagine that Chivas and Guadalajara have really gotten that much out of their relationship with MLS.
Yeah, I don't think this partnership has benefited them much at all.
It's been like nothing but bad press, and they always say, there is no such thing as bad press, but it has been nothing but bad press for them up here.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah,
not really.
It really hasn't panned out for them. So,
I think tens of people on hand to watch your home
exactly.
matches.
I mean, it's embarrassing, and I do think Beckham's looked hard at Miami, and I think that's definitely where he's looked. But I think MLS would love a scenario where Beckham purchased Chivas USA, Beckham and Consortium purchased Chivas USA, and then I think they'd love to move them to a downtown type stadium. I don't know what they would call that team.
Well, you do have a group in place that Beckham is friends with, but they are also the Galaxy owner, the AIG group.
Right.
Is trying to put an NFL team right down there in downtown LA.
Great, another NFL stadium.
But it does mean that they are in the process of mapping out a stadium location.
Right.
In downtown LA. Right in that LA Live area right next to everything.
Yeah.
Staples Center.
I mean, that would be an awesome place to put a stadium. I would like it a lot better if it was, say, a soccer-specific stadium instead of an NFL one. But I think that will only get done if it is an NFL stadium.
Do they have to go Anaheim, maybe?
I don't think so.
You think they want downtown LA?
I think they want downtown LA. So they can get, the younger crowd that's down there, the business crowd. They want, some of those lucrative businesses to come in and buy suites.
What if they move the Galaxy there?
And then leave some other team in the Home Depot Center?
Or put them Anaheim somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't see them abandoning the Home Depot Center. I don't see MLS taking interest away from that stadium. It's a nice stadium.
It works.
It works.
When the Galaxy are playing there.
Yeah, that's true. So, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of different angles on this, but I think that's definitely one that MLS would like to see rectified is that whole Chivas USA situation.
So, if you're saying if their ideal situation is not that it's one of these cities that doesn't end up being the four, go get them. You want an ownership within LA to take them and move them somewhere else in town.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's either that or stay at the Home Depot Center and remarket themselves somehow. I mean, there has to be some way.
Regardless of what they do, they need to be doing that.
Well, yeah, obviously, but I think that's definitely the route they would probably need to go. So, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, that's the hard part about that whole Chivas USA situation is MLS have kind of backed themselves into a corner, but at the same time, I think that would probably be a situation they would gladly take in.
Okay. You got a pub for us, or?
Yeah. So the one that I wanted to talk about was up in Chicago, kind of one of the more famous soccer bars in the country.
Let's see if it's one of the ones I've been to.
The Globe.
It's one of the ones I've been to.
All right. Do you want to talk about the Globe since you've been there?
I've only been there once, and it was literally for the last 20 minutes of Portugal-Germany in the last in the Euros.
Okay. What was your impression, though?
Loved it.
Loved it?
Yeah, great.
Nice.
First of all, we were only there for 20 minutes because we spent 15 minutes waiting for someone to leave the bar because they were at capacity.
Yeah.
They were at capacity. They had someone at the door saying no one else is coming in. We are at capacity.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the Globe is definitely, it's also a big fire bar for away matches. So
sure.
if you've ever, tried to catch a match in Chicago when they're playing out of town, that's a great place to go. But it's definitely one of the more popular bars for soccer in the city. I mean, if you aren't getting there a few hours earlier, and that's, I luckily had that experience where someone's like, hey, we need to actually go like at least an hour before the match, otherwise we're not going to get a spot in there.
I got in town, and I told my little brother, I was like, hey, I want to go watch this match. And he goes, okay. I think I know. Yeah, he lives actually really nearby.
Okay.
So he was like, okay, I know where to go.
Yeah. So definitely check out the Globe if you're in Chicago. There are a number of other places in town you can also check out, but the Globe's definitely a hot spot to look at.
Sweet. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I couldn't move.
Yeah.
Because it was, before we got in, we were standing with about 15 other dudes just looking through the window.
Like, this place looks sweet.
Yeah. We're just trying to watch the TVs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad you picked that one.
Hey, that one was for you.
Sweet.
We didn't even plan this, listeners.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly endorse the Globe.
Excellent. Well, I think that's it for this week.
I think so. So we'll have, obviously, some Champions League to figure out.
Next week.
Got, when did the other domestic cups start? That should be coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're probably going to dip our toes into some of the early rounds.
Capital One action?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing better.
Nothing better than some midweek Capital One Cup coming to your living room screens from what's left of Fox Soccer Channel.
That was the other conversation me and Stoner had.
Yeah.
He seemed at peace with it.
Well, everyone has to move on.
He's still employed at this, with Fox, so I guess he's good.
He's not crying too much.
No.
So, well, it's been fun, listeners. Be sure to check us out again, wrongsideofthepond.com. Jeremy, it's been fun as always.
It's been great.
Yeah.
We actually, for the first time ever, did our podcast in the allotted time of the week that we had originally
planned for. Yeah. Sunday nights were what we aimed for. So we're finally here. Yeah.
Later.